I'm 13 years old, and I've never felt pain like this before. My parents rushed me to the hospital. Again. It's been a week of this. The pain in my stomach, the hospital visits, and the same words every single time. It's nothing serious. Let's not overreact. This time, as we walk into the hospital, I can barely stand. The head doctor takes a quick look at me, shakes his head, and says, "Nothing serious. Go get some rest." And with that, he turns around and heads towards the door. In that moment, I can feel all the tears that I've been holding back inside me for days. Pure hopelessness. Again. The head doctor is halfway out the door already when I suddenly hear the voice of a nurse. And the two words she's about to say will save my life. I disagree. Over the next few minutes, she urges the head doctor to administer a special abdominal scan until he actually gives in. Seconds after the scan, I am being rushed into emergency surgery. My appendix had ruptured a week before, and I am in the last stage of blood poisoning. If this amazing and courageous nurse hadn't spoken up against all odds, then I wouldn't be standing here today. Luck. And since then, I kind of look at our world through a luck lens. But I quickly had to realize I'm pretty much the only one doing that. Everywhere I looked, I saw how luck shaped the lives around me. But whenever I pointed it out, my friends and my family just looked at me like I'm crazy. And that got me thinking. Why is it so hard for us to see how luck shapes our lives? And the more I learned about it, the more I realized that our inability to recognize luck does not only have personal consequences, it also affects how our political system works and the society we live in. And that's what I want to explore with you today. Do you know the feeling of riding a bike against the wind? When you're basically kicking and kicking and kicking into those pedals, but it feels like you're almost going backwards because the wind is just so strong. And then, suddenly, the wind turns and is at your back, and it feels amazing, but we forget about it just as quickly. This is how our minds work. We focus more on the barriers than on the boosters. We only remember the headwind. Every time when I try to plug in a USB drive, I need at least 3 tries, although it only has 2 possible orientations. Well, that's at least what we think, because technically we all know that in 50% of the cases, we plug in the USB drive correctly on the first try, right? But our mind focuses on the other 50% and blows them up disproportionately. We focus more on the barriers than on the boosters. And that makes total sense. Throughout our evolutionary history, recognizing danger, literally the tiger behind you, has been critical for our survival. But now, this bias makes us also not realize which significant roles boosters like luck and chance play in determining our success. And that's where another psychological phenomenon comes into play: the egocentric bias. Egocentric bias means most people think they did most of the work. Our brain makes us constantly feel like we're the main actor, the main character of our own movie. And that's because we remember in great detail everything we do, but not what others do. So naturally, we overestimate our own contribution and underestimate the contribution of others. In surveys, for example, more than 90% of people describe themselves as above average drivers, which is, of course, mathematically impossible because only 50% can be above average, right? But it gets even crazier. More than 80% of the people say the same. that they are above average drivers, while they are in hospital recovering from driving accidents. We focus more on the barriers than on the boosters. And by overemphasizing our own actions through this egocentric bias, it is hard for us to see how luck and chance play a role in our success. Those two biases combined create a false reality where we believe that success is simple math. Hard work plus talent equals achievement. But that's just simply not the case. Take the 8 track and field world records. All of the athletes are obviously world class. They are super talented and incredibly hardworking. And yet, when they achieved their world records, 7 out of 8 had a tailwind. It just required a bit of luck as well to set the world record. Let's try to think about what all of this means for our society, specifically for people in positions of power, like business leaders and politicians. Most of them, undoubtedly, are hardworking and talented, but they are also luckier than most of us, without realizing just how lucky they are. And this creates a distorted view of reality. They've all been working hard and ultimately succeeded, so to them, our world appears perfectly fair. It rewards hard work in their experience. The egocentric bias makes them remember all of the time when they had to put in the extra work to get over those barriers. But here's the important part. What they don't have is the experience of all of the people who have worked equally hard and failed. So the natural conclusion of many of those leaders is that all others must be less talented or less hardworking. And they are the ones who set the rules for how our society works, but they are less inclined to give back to society. It's a crazy, cruel trick of our psychology that successful people will credit their success largely to their own hard work and therefore contribute less to maintaining the very circumstances that made their success possible in the first place. Like public infrastructure, like schools, like the healthcare system, and so on. If the most powerful people in this world think like that, then we have a problem. And I've witnessed this problem firsthand. Since 2021, I've been to all United Nations climate change conferences. These are the conferences where all countries come together to fight climate change collectively. And all of those conferences had one thing in common. The unluckiest countries were completely forgotten. One of the biggest factors of chance and luck is the country you are born in. And leading economists confirm that your income is basically only explained by 2 factors: the country you're born in and the income distribution within that country. But beyond income, luck also applies to how affected you and your country are by climate disasters. And those countries that contributed the least to creating climate change are the ones who are affected the most. The entire continent of Africa, just as one example, is historically responsible for only 2% of global greenhouse gas emissions. But they have to go through some of the worst climate disasters our world has ever witnessed. Last year, after about 20 years of international pressure, wealthier nations, basically luckier nations, finally decided to give money to developing countries in order to help them cope with climate disasters. This is called the Loss and Damage Fund. And so far, it has raised $700 million. Now, to put that into perspective, every year, countries pay approximately $7 trillion to fossil fuel subsidies. That's 7,000 billions of US dollars every single year. And if you've been wondering if I'm having a light obsession with medicine balls or why this thing is lying around here the entire time, if this massive medicine ball represents the 7 trillion that goes to the fossil fuel industry, then this pearl, 10,000 times smaller, represents that money that our world has to spare for the most impacted communities around the world. This is the money that goes to the CEOs of fossil fuel companies. This is the money that goes to families who have literally lost everything to the climate crisis. I have one question for every politician. How much of your individual and your country's success comes down to luck? Please give yourself an honest response. And if the answer is that luck did play a role, then your policies need to reflect that. But this change in mindset cannot only just happen from the top. It's something that we all have to build together, collectively. And it starts with each one of us recognizing the role luck plays in our individual lives. If we redefine success as part effort and part luck, then we can create a culture of humility and gratitude. And over time, this change in mindset could lead to leaders who better understand what they owe to luck and therefore set better rules for how our society works. Together, we can shift the mentality away from those biases, away from the winner takes it all, and towards a mentality of we are all winning together because we value humility and gratitude. And this change in mindset actually benefits us too. Researchers from the University of Miami and the University of California asked participants to keep a gratitude journal. And those who just took a few moments every single day to write down what they are thankful for reported better sleep, less pain, and increased happiness. I mean, that's crazy. It's such a simple step, but it has such a huge impact on our lives. Quick question. How many of you have heard about gratitude journals and their positive impacts before? Please raise your hand. Yeah, I can see pretty much everyone. How many of you actually keep a gratitude journal? I mean, I do see a few. That's awesome. But it's such a simple step. And it just helps us to shift away from the barriers and towards the boosters. Many of us in this room have been incredibly lucky. Once this talk is finished, I invite you all to think for a few moments how luck has impacted your life. What events, what milestones, and what successes were made possible by lucky coincidences. And most importantly, who was the nurse in your life? It's not about getting up every single day and telling ourselves how grateful we are. It's just about realizing that our own hard work may open doors, but luck finds the door in the first place. We are the world that we shape with every choice. And now it's time to use our voice to change the narrative, but it only has merit if we all make some noise. You know, luck is unbelievable, and that might be the reason why we all unbelieved it. But it's on us to reverse this and realize that we're still as worthy, even if success is less self-made and more others' aid. Yes, our world is always spinning, but we cannot forget when we are winning that luck was often in the beginning. Together, let's set the tide from wrong to right. It doesn't need a fight, just a conversation. And soon, luck and gratitude will have their place. Because in the end, we are the world we embrace. Luck, but we're just stuck in our view of me, myself, and I. Egocentric bias, not recognizing that luck supplies us everywhere we go, every day we grow, every time we glow, but we just don't know what we owe to the greater good. We focus on the barriers, not the boosters. But what if we all just open our eyes to what lies in front of us? We should be more mindful, but instead, our mind is full of barriers we overcame. We focus on the challenges, yet our challenge is to focus on the boosters. It's such a shame that luck is invisible like tears in the rain. And our world is in pain because we sacrifice everything for our personal gain. Yes, it's us we have to blame, but not everything is in vain. because there's still time to change the lane of the train called future. A future where we do not leave the unlucky behind. A future that's kind, because we all know that our fate is intertwined and that we would be blind to be inclined to assume that it's our mind alone that can set us up for success. Actually, what is this success? I really don't know. But what I do know is that it's less of a mess if we confess that success does not justify excess, that individual success should not hinder societal progress unless we want a train called future to depart without us. We are the world, and we shape with every choice. And now it's time to use our voice to change the narrative, but it only has merit if we all make some noise. You know, luck is unbelievable, and it might be the reason why we all unbelieved it. But it's on us to reverse this and realize that we're still as worthy, even if success is less self-made and more others' aid. Yes, our world is always spinning, but we cannot forget when we are winning that luck was often in the beginning. Together, let's set the tide from wrong to right. It doesn't need a fight, just a conversation. And soon, luck and gratitude will have their place. Because in the end, we are the world we embrace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.